This Sports Blitz podcast is brought to you by LMG. Grow your business through logo design, paper products, and video production. Visit leemarketing.net to learn more.
Welcome back into Sports Blitz Live. Luke Robinson with you now. And we've got a very special guest, Mike Huguenin from NFL.com and College Football 24/7. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I am doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for being with us. Gosh, we were talking about it off air. I know you've got to be glad that the NFL draft is over.
Yeah, the immensely long build-up for this one was quasi-ridiculous. But they got phenomenal TV ratings. There were two, last Thursday, first round, there was 2 NBA playoff games, and the NFL draft had 3 times more viewers than actual playoff games. So the NFL, wants to rule the sports calendar. Having the draft in May gives them another month of big-time coverage. So the draft is not moving back to April. No way.
I think you're absolutely right. I've heard a few things about the NFL. First of all, that they were dominating. They were the dominant sport in 10 out of 12 months, and now that's moved 11 to 12 because of this draft. And I also heard this. Does this sound correct that Johnny Football-related tweets totaled 2.5 million, whereas tweets for the NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs, which are going on at about the same time as the draft, only totaled 500,000 combined?
Yeah, I think it goes to show you, like you said, the sports calendar is geared toward the NFL. The first round of the draft, Manziel was the biggest story. There is no black or white with Manziel. Actually, there is only black and white with Manziel. Either you like him or you don't like him. There is no middle ground on Johnny Football. So the intrigue surrounding him definitely was the big sports story last Thursday. And think about it. He's a 21-year-old college kid, never played an NFL game, and yet that was the big sports story. And it goes to show the NFL's reach, and frankly, college football's reach as well, because Johnny Manziel is coming to the NFL. Everybody, even the casual fan, knows all about Johnny Manziel already, and the NFL is going to reap the benefits.
It really is unbelievable, and the NFL couldn't have had it play out any better. The first day, the first round was dominated by Johnny Manziel, and because he fell so much, you could not avert your eyes. You had to wait and see where he was going to go, and luckily for the NFL, it took to the 22nd pick. The next day, one of the big stories was A.J. McCarron's big drop. He thought he was going to be a first rounder, which I think was a little bit out there, and it falls all the way to the 5th round. And then the final day, you had the whole Michael Sam thing. Everything played out perfectly for him.
Yeah, every day. And you're right. And the second day, not only McCarron, but you had Aaron Murray, you had Mettenberger. The second day was supposed to be this huge run on quarterbacks, and instead only 2 of them went. So, it was there was enough storylines to keep this draft moving along. And I think the fact that the draft was in May, you have to create more storylines in March and April now. So, again, that's going to be something that's going to stay the same, I think, going forward. And you're right. I think if you're a hardcore college football fan, you've heard all about these guys, and you're sort of sick of hearing about them, and yet you're still hearing about new guys. Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo is an interesting story. Oh, Tom Savage is an interesting story. Oh, my God, Brandon Cooks really is a cool kid. He's an interesting story. So the fact that there was more run-up to the draft this year, I think people got to know more and more players, which, again, is phenomenal for the NFL, because you're getting ready-made stars coming into the league ready to play.
The NFL draft is just everything that the other leagues' drafts are not. It's captivating, and I think it is because of college football. So many people have fallen in love with these guys or learned to hate them, like a Johnny Manziel or like an A.J. McCarron, that you have to watch. Whereas with baseball, I don't even know when that draft is. And with basketball, now that kids only have to stay 1 year, and sometimes they seem rather disinterested in school, you just don't have the affinity for it.
Yeah, and I think I live in Orlando, obviously an NBA city. The NBA draft is 2 weeks after the NBA finals. The NFL draft is 4 months, or 3 months after the Super Bowl. So there's all that build-up. And you're right, players in college football, they are vastly more well-known than they are in college basketball. College basketball, you generally have 4 or 5 international players in the first round. No one's heard of those guys unless you're a super hardcore international basketball fan. You're right, the baseball draft's in June. No one knows who these high school guys are, even college baseball players. And as for the NHL draft, I don't think anybody outside of maybe 8 or 9 guys truly care about the NHL draft. So the NFL draft, you're right, it's getting. Think about this. It wasn't televised until the early 80s, and here we are 30 years later, and it's arguably maybe the second biggest NFL day behind only the Super Bowl now. So it is pretty mind-boggling how far the draft has come, all because ESPN decided to televise it because it had nothing else to show back in April in 1981. Yeah,
that is funny. I heard the story about the beginning of the draft, and it's crazy, and you see everybody smoking while it's going on. It's nuts. But I know this is cliche, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Who was your big winner and who was your big loser?
Oh, I was not impressed at all with Kansas City's draft, and I thought the best draft. I thought a couple teams did a really nice job. I thought Oakland, for being as bad a franchise as they are, drafted extremely well. I think San Francisco drafted extremely well. I think St. Louis getting Greg Robinson and Aaron Donald in the first round, phenomenal job. Because I think Robinson can be a franchise left tackle. I think Donald can be a franchise defensive tackle. I thought Baltimore with Ozzie Newsome did a great job. C.J. Mosley falls to him. Timmy Jernigan falls to him in the second round. They get Terrence Brooks in the third round. Those guys can all play. And I also thought Arizona and Green Bay did really, really good jobs with their drafts.
Talk about Oakland just for a second. That is a franchise that just can't seem to get out of its own way usually. But I'm like you. I thought they had a pretty good draft. What are their prospects for getting better really soon?
Yeah, I think they still don't have a quarterback. Khalil Mack is a guy who's going to play right away and be a star. I think Gabe Jackson, the Mississippi State guard, was a phenomenal pick in the third round. Yes, he needs to improve his pass blocking, but the dude is a mauler in the running game. I think Derek Carr, 2 or 3 years from now, can be a good quarterback. They got the Justin Ellis kid from Louisiana Tech is a very good nose tackle. They got a 7th-round safety named Jonathan Dowling from Western Kentucky. Jonathan Dowling, coming out of high school, was a top 50 kid, went to Florida, extremely immature. They booted him off the team. He ends up at Western Kentucky because he knows Willie Taggart from growing up. But if Jonathan Dowling has matured and has his head on straight, here's a guy who Oakland got in the 7th round that can be an NFL starter in 2 years. So Oakland got great value, and again, they're going to need to wait on Derek Carr, I think, but Khalil Mack is a phenomenal player, and I think he's going to make a huge impact right away.
You had a great article on some undrafted free agents who went on to become stars. I'm a big recruit, Nick. I believe in the star system. I believe if you're a 5-star, you have a much better chance of playing at the next level. But there are some pretty big names that went totally undrafted and ended up being NFL stars. Is there somebody that you know of that's been picked up after this draft that you think can go on to have success like an Antonio Gates or an Arian Foster?
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to get that good, but I really like the Iowa linebacker James Morris. Iowa had 3 senior starting linebackers. 2 of the 3 got drafted, and Morris didn't because he runs a 4.8 40. But if you watch him play, I mean, he's the kind of guy that if you're playing against him, you're like, we're going to run the ball down his throat, and then you play against him and you realize, my God, this guy's always in the right place, never makes a mental mistake. I really like James Morris a lot, the linebacker from Iowa. And also I think there's a kicker, Chris Boswell from Rice. I don't know if he's going to get a chance to kick in 2014, because I think he's the kind of guy that could bounce around. But the dude kicked 13 field goals of more than 50 yards in the college career. He's just got an absolute howitzer for a leg. And I think, in 5 or 6 years, I would not be surprised if Chris Boswell's an all-pro kicker. I think the kid's that good. And obviously, you don't draft kickers. 2 did get drafted, including the kid from Arkansas. But I have to admit, I don't understand why, if you're drafting a kicker in this draft, you would take Zach Hocker of Arkansas over Chris Boswell of Rice, because Boswell's just got a phenomenal leg.
Well, I have to ask you about the whole Michael Sam situation and your take on it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was that surprised. I mean, he's not a great athlete. We all know that. My thing is, okay, he was the co-defensive MVP of the best league in college football. And he's going against really good offensive tackles every single week in the SEC. So if he can find a way to get 11.5 sacks in the SEC and come up with 19 tackles for loss in the SEC despite not being a great athlete, well, to me that means the guy's got a phenomenal motor, got a high football IQ, and that's a guy that, hey, I'm taking in the 6th or 7th round. And, you know, I go back to, okay, I understand he's not a great athlete, but I think the guy can play football. You know, is he going to be an NFL star? No. Can he make an NFL team and be a positive force in terms of the pass rush? Yes. And you know, they're drafting guys from Marist in the 7th round at defensive end. You can't tell me a kid from Marist has the tenth of the football ability of Michael Sam. Again, it goes back to the dude was a star player in the SEC, which means he can play football. So again, I think the Rams, you know, not that they needed another guy on their defense, because that defensive line now, with Aaron Donald's drafting, they're going to start 4 former number 1 picks on that defensive line. Michael Brockers from LSU is there. And you know, Jeff Fisher's a really good coach. He knows how to use pass rushers to the nth degree. So I think Sam can make the Rams and be a situational guy for a team that already is extremely deep in pass rushers.
Well, Mike, that's a lot of great stuff. We really do appreciate your being with us tonight. We want to have you on again closer to football season. I'm already fired up talking to you about it.
Yeah, there's only 15 and a half weeks away the first week. Thank God. 15 weeks from Thursday is the first game. So I'm to the point now where I'm actually, once the draft preseason got into high gear, I'm thinking, oh my God, let's get the games here as fast as possible. So I got a check mark thing on my calendar here. So 15 weeks from Thursday is the first football game of the 2014 season.
Thanks so much, Mike. We'll have you on again.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, man.